Hi and welcome to another episode of Dan Pearson Photo TV. Today I want to have a quick chat to you about the new Canon 5D Mark IV, and whilst this isn't a review, I want to have a chat to you about the direction that Canon is undertaking with this particular camera and give you just a few of my brief sort of thoughts on whether or not they're going in the right way. What's interesting to note is that first of all, on the spec sheet there are some marked improvements over the 5D Mark III. The increase in resolution is definitely going to be welcome for most people, even though the 30 megapixel or so sensor is not necessarily a requirement in a lot of different styles of photography that this camera is used for. It's nice to be able to have the additional value to be able to crop in, so I do see that as an instant advantage. In many respects, the fact that the still side of this has been improved is kind of academic in my eyes. Yes, we've picked up a little bit more in the way of frame rate. The autofocus system that they're employing now is much more improved from the previous version, albeit the fact is that the autofocus in the 5D Mark III is still actually very good. It's a very competent system. Certainly in the hands of a professional, it's a very useful tool. So yes, you know, there's nothing to kind of discredit Canon for the direction that they've taken in improving the still side of the camera. Where my issues come in are really in respect of the fact that how this camera is likely to be used. The reality is that it's very difficult for professional photographers to really be just stills photographers anymore. Purely and simply because content is, in my eyes, becoming more focused on creating video. Creation and creativity are intertwined. Stills and moving images are intertwined. More so than ever before probably, and even professional stills photographers are quite often filming video to use on their vlogs, to use on their websites, to use as marketing campaigns, as part of Instagram, social media profiles. So it's important that Canon recognises that fact. And that comes on to the fact that they have built in a codec which is motion JPEG, effectively, and I think the primary reason for that is because it's easy to take a stills image from within a 4K frame. So you're going to get around an 8.8 megapixel image if you take a still shot, effectively giving you 30 frames per second or thereabouts. If you're shooting 4K, 30 frames a second, you can choose one of those images, one of those frames, and have the decisive moment. That's beneficial, and I can see for stills photographers why that's a really useful codec. But again, I come back to the point, which is that if I wanted to have the high speed capability of a camera, then I'm going to go and buy the 1DX2. 14 frames per second, much more improved system, it's much more focused towards sports, and I still get a higher resolution and I get a better crop factor, okay, albeit I'm spending more money to do so. But really the choice is there. Obviously Canon have the higher megapixel options within the 5D series as well, so if I'm a landscape photographer and I want the extra resolution there, I have choices to go and buy that too. The reality is that as a camera, the 5D, as in the Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV formats, has always sat as being the all-rounder within the model range, and indeed that should remain the case. I don't think that they've thought this through in terms of the actual video side though. I think Canon have realised that the 5D is used by videographers and also increasingly may be used by professionals in lots of different areas to film vlogs and to film content and to engage with the customer base more. But the motion JPEG side and the fact that the bitrate there is pretty huge, it's requiring very fast cards, it's requiring big card sizes, 256 gig or so to get an hour's worth of filming out of it. And then you're trying to take that into your NLE, whether it's Adobe Premiere, whichever program you're using to edit your footage. It's not very NLE friendly, and it's not a very efficient codec. So I think they've probably missed a trick there, and again it'd be interesting to see whether or not they're able to do something with updated firmware further down the line. It would have been nice to see the option to take some raw footage from the camera. It would have been nice to have seen a more efficient codec for filming 4K that allows me to create, or to capture more footage onto a singular card, and something that's easier to edit within the typical programs that we're using. And I think that's really a focus where they've probably got this wrong. There's a bit too much emphasis on the stills photography in terms of trying to drag one individual frame out of a series of frames to use as a stills image at 8.8 megapixel. And whilst I understand the thought process, I'm not sure that that's completely right for the market. That said, Canon have said that they've done their research on this and they've listened to what consumers want. I think the issue with that is that sometimes consumers are not quite sure what they want. It feels as though Canon have brought out a camera which is a very, very well-spec camera, and is effectively probably still one of the best spec cameras on the market. The 5D3 was a great camera, is a great camera. It's a camera I use myself. And the 5D4 has more features than the 5D3. So by definition, it's a better camera and effectively a more capable camera than an already very good camera. Still, the issue comes from what the other competitors within the marketplace now do. It'll be interesting to see over the next 6 months or so and what Sony do with their mirrorless cameras, what Nikon do with some of their options. And my thoughts are that if it's another 3 to 4 years before Canon bring out a 5D Mark V, then I think that camera will date relatively quickly, because I think that there will be better options on the market for an all-round camera, and certainly with a bit more focus onto the video. I can't wait to get my hands on the 5D Mark IV. That said, I'm looking forward to spending a little bit of time with it, using it and giving guys some feedback. I've had chats to a couple of people who've had their hands on, use the camera, and it's been interesting to hear their thoughts. Video-wise, there's a rolling shutter issue that seems to be present. Once again, there's ways to work around that. There's ways to work around the codec. I just think that overall, Canon have not really wowed the market in the way that they should have done. And I think people have waited quite a while for this new version of the camera. The 5D Mark III wasn't massively different to the 5D Mark II, and I still see the 5D Mark II as being the groundbreaker out of the 5D series. And I think, probably like many other people, I expected the 5D Mark IV to really excel. I expected something very dramatic from Canon. And whilst they've made improvements, and whilst the camera clearly is a very capable tool, the spec sheet is very good, I still don't think that they've just gone poof, pow, wow, something that's just blown me away and thought, something, I have to buy that camera now. Wish I had that camera yesterday. That's not happened with this 5D Mark IV variant. And that's a shame, and it'll be interesting to see how sales go. Not just initial sales, but sales over the next 12 to 24 months as new technology steps out there. That said, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. It'd be interesting to see what you think. Are you a Canon user? Are you a 5D user or a double-digit D user? Are you thinking that this is a camera that's worthy of an upgrade? Is this something that you want to take a look into? Are you a Nikon user, a Sony user? Is this something that might tempt you away from the systems that you're using now? Be interesting to see what you guys think. When I get my hands on the Mark IV and I've got a little bit more time, play around with this, I will try and put together some test footage, some test shots, and hopefully give you a little bit more information about my thoughts on the camera, how it works for me, and to see whether or not the spec or the lack of spec from my side is reflected in how I feel about the camera and using it on an ongoing basis. That's pretty much it for now. Thanks for listening, and I will chat to you guys again shortly. Don't forget, please subscribe, and if you've got any questions, feel free to comment below, and I will do my best to answer them.